Hi, this is Ryan with RE Shoemaker LLC, specializing in voice over IP telephone systems, computer networks, and cabling, and security camera systems. This is part 2 in the series of working with the Hanwha A-Series network video recorder and IP cameras. In part 1, we talked about live view. In this one, we're going to talk about recordings or playback mode. And we're particularly interested in using the WebViewer for this. So we're going to assume in part 1 you already learned how to log in using your IP address in a browser window, and we're going to resume here once you're logged in. So I have another tab open here, and this is my web viewer of my camera system. So I'm in live view right now. I can tell that because it says live here is highlighted in orange. And in order to go to playback, I'm going to click on this search button. And then once you choose search, some things change on the screen. Down the left-hand side, it's asking for us to choose which target device we want, which camera we want to view. I'm just going to click camera 1, and then you choose the date that you're interested in. Now this calendar that shows up shows you what days are available on the recorder. Those days that have recordings appear in orange, and dates that do not have any recordings appear in white. So you can go back and see, previous months. Looks like I can go back about a month and a day on my particular system. Looks like September 9th was the very first day that I had footage. And then we go right up to today, which today is October 10th, and I have footage there. So I'm going to click today's date. And then when I do that, across the bottom, you'll notice that we get a timeline bar appearing with various green and red dashes, and then you get your main screen for that camera. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that when I set up security cameras for most of my clients, I set them up to record continuously and then also be triggered by motion and sometimes by line crossing, where something will pass in front of the camera and move through a line, and those types of events will cause these red dashes. And that's just a habit I've gotten into. That way I know that I'm not missing any footage. The green time frames are just continuous recording. Nothing is occurring in the screen or in the frame. The red dashes are what we're usually interested in, because that's where something has triggered the camera to know that something has occurred. So right now we are in a pretty wide view. I can see like from 4 a.m. till noon. If I want to change that timeline, I can zoom on it by using the scroll button on your mouse. Scrolling down will zoom in on that time frame. And you can zoom the whole way down to a 10-minute interval if you wanted to go that far. But obviously when you zoom down, this is 10 minutes now that appears on the bottom timeline. But obviously that gets a little difficult when you're traveling through a 24-hour period and you're only seeing 10 minutes at a time. So I usually get used to using the scroll button on my mouse and scrolling out and in to get particular areas of the day. So I'm going to scroll out, and now it looks like I've got from 8 in the morning until about 10 in the morning. And then once you see these red dashes, I'm going to scroll down on those red dashes. And if you get just in front of the red dash and left click with your mouse, it will then show you the footage that took place. In that case, we had a vehicle that moved in front of the camera. And here's another one. It looks like, yep, another vehicle came past. So now, let's say you are looking for a particular event and you don't know when it occurred. You basically don't have to sit and watch the video, and you don't even just have to do it fast forward through the whole time period. You can rule out a lot of time where all these green areas can pretty much be ignored because nothing should have occurred in the frame during that time. So I can sort of scroll across here, and I can just keep tapping in front of these events and see what happens. And that helps speed up the process of trying to find something that may have occurred if you have a theft or a damaged vehicle or something of interest that you wanted to focus on. So I just keep clicking in front of these, and then you can click pause if you wanted to, and then at this point you can do previous frame, and you can slow motion go back, and you can use next frame to go forward, or you can just hit play to go back to your normal time frame. So the last part of this video, to try to keep it short, is I want to talk about how you can export footage. So let's say you are looking for a particular event. You have gotten used to clicking on these different red areas, red bars, and let's say you find one of interest. It looks like here I'm going to go to this one, and this is me earlier today going out to get some boxes of cable out of the truck. So let's say this is something that I want to save for future reference. If it was a theft or you needed to report it to the police, then I want to go over how to export that footage. So I'm going to just pause this for a moment. And we now know we have our perpetrator in the screen, and it looks like he's messing with some boxes of cable. So if I wanted to gather this and save this for indefinitely for the future, I'm going to use this little button here, which is actually called a time range button. And what it does is it puts brackets around a period. It says here, in the timeline, set the video section you want to export and click export. If the section is set, I didn't read fast enough. But what you're interested in is this little white bar is your bracket. I can click on that, left click, drag it over to where I want to start exporting. I'm going to go just in front of the action that occurred. And then likewise, I'm going to drag across. Oh, nope, sorry. First, I need to scroll out so I can see the right bracket. And then I'm going to drag that right bracket across to where the action ends. And now I've got my left bracket and right bracket enclosed. And I can hit the play and I can see that, okay, we're playing right now in that time frame and we're inside those two brackets. So anything inside those brackets right now are what we're going to want to export. Now, if we ended up finding that we didn't need all of this footage, once we watched through it, we could further drag these brackets into a shorter time period, keeping in mind the shorter the bracket, the smaller the file size when you go to export. So you don't necessarily want to record like an hour at a time. You want to sort of narrow it down to just the key events that were occurring and get that bracket to be the shortest amount of time period so that the file sizes will be smaller to put onto a thumb drive or on a hard drive. And also when you go to play back the footage, you won't have as much data so that you won't have as many issues with it being sluggish. So now I'm happy with where my brackets are. I want to export it. You come over then, and this other button is your export button. So when I click that, because I've put brackets around it, it's already set my camera. It's saying channel 1 because that's the channel we were working on. And it's already put my starting and end points in so that I don't have to put all that data in there because the brackets take the place of that. So right now, and you can decipher this, it looks like it gives you your year, your month, your day, and then the time of day in hours, minutes, and seconds. And then it shows you the ending time the same way. So if you wanted to, you could also go into this setup and you could adjust the times, but it's much easier to do so with these white brackets earlier. So let's say we already have them what we want. Now you get two options. You can either export it as an AVI file, or if it's going to be a larger file that, let's say you have 20 minutes instead of 2, you could use a zip file so that it compresses it. In this case, we're only talking a couple minutes, so I'm just going to leave it as AVI. I click OK, and now you're going to see the process, and it's going to move pretty quickly here because I'm only talking a couple minutes. And then once it gets completed, it should come up with a box here and tell me that it has exported it. And then it will be locally, and most of the time, unless you have your computer set up somehow differently, it should save it to like your downloads folder or my documents or whatever. And it tells us it completed here. So I can click OK, and now I can cancel out of here. And now in my downloads folder, here it is. It looks like it downloaded it. So now that it has downloaded it to my downloads folder, I can go ahead and open that file and view it. Now in that case, you're going to need some sort of AVI viewer if your computer does not automatically recognize AVI files. There's one good product that's free and readily available, and that's VLC, and I recommend that you download that if your computer does not recognize those files. But at this point now you have downloaded an AVI file and you can go ahead and use it for whatever purposes you see fit.